They said it was just a prank. They laughed when they sent the video around, when they added music to it, when they uploaded it with captions like, "This year's Oscar for Best Striptease goes to." But they didn't see the way my hands shook when I watched my body on someone else's phone. They didn't hear the way I choked on my own breath in the bathroom stall. They didn't know that moment, those 47 seconds, would become the worst memory of my life. My name is Kira. I'm 16, and this is how everything fell apart. It started on a regular Tuesday after gym class. I was the last one in the locker room because I'd stayed behind to help Ms. Lang with equipment. I liked having the space to myself. It felt peaceful, quiet, warm, safe. I always changed behind the row of lockers furthest from the door, the spot with the broken camera above it. I thought I was alone. I thought I was safe. I should have noticed the phone propped behind the bottle of shampoo. Or the fact that Stacy and her little clique kept whispering that day, watching me more than usual in gym class. But I didn't. I was tired. I peeled off my sweaty shirt, then my leggings, humming to myself, while facing the corner. That night I got the first message. It was from an unknown number. A video attachment. No words, just a winking emoji. I opened it, and froze. It was me, half naked, bending down to grab my towel. The angle was from behind, shaking slightly. My voice humming. My bra exposed. Then my startled face as I turned around, confused. I screamed. My phone hit the floor. My skin turned ice cold. Then the second message came. "Here's your movie debut." By the next morning, the whole school had seen it. In the hallways, people stared. Some laughed behind their hands. Some didn't even bother hiding it. I heard someone say, "She has nothing to be ashamed of. I've seen worse on Netflix." And another whisper, "She definitely knew. Look how she bent over on purpose." I ran into the girls' bathroom and locked myself in a stall. I couldn't cry. I was too stunned, too hollow. All I kept thinking was they saw me. All of them. Without my permission. Without my clothes. My body isn't mine anymore. I texted my best friend Zoe, hoping she hadn't watched it. She replied, "I told you not to trust Stacy. I'm sorry." That was the last message I got from her for weeks. At lunch, Stacy strutted past me with her phone out. "Smile for the camera, superstar," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Her friends cackled. One tossed popcorn at my tray. I didn't move. I didn't speak. But inside something cracked, and behind the crack something darker began to grow. That night, I didn't eat. I didn't sleep either. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the video in my head over and over until I wanted to tear my skin off. I kept thinking maybe if I reported it right away, someone could stop it. Maybe if I screamed loud enough, someone would care. By morning, it was too late. My phone buzzed nonstop. DM requests from strangers, boys I'd never talked to before. Some messages were disgusting. Others pretended to be kind, asking if I was okay, just so they could get a reply and say, "So, you free for a private show?" Even worse, someone uploaded the video to a Reddit thread called School Scandals, Real Girls Only. I found it because someone tagged me anonymously. The title of the post was "Kira M. undresses like she's in a movie, 10-10. The comments were endless. She knew she was being recorded. "Bet she does this every week. LOL, she's gonna regret this in 10 years. This ain't revenge porn, it's a gift." I wanted to die. I didn't go to school for 2 days. Mom thought I was just sick. Dad left early both mornings, too distracted to notice I hadn't gotten dressed. But on day 3, they both got a call from the school. My mom stormed into my room holding her phone. Her eyes were wide. Her voice was sharp. "Kira, what is this? Is this real? Did you let someone record you?" That was the moment it hit me. Even my parents thought I asked for this. No, I screamed the first time I'd spoken out loud in days. I didn't know they hid a phone, I didn't. But she'd already turned away, muttering, "We raised you better than this." Dad stood behind her silent, his face pale. He didn't say a word. That somehow hurt worse than Mom yelling. At school, the whispers had turned into open cruelty. A flyer with a still from the video was taped to my locker with the words, "Staring Kira M." A private show for public eyes misspelled, all caps, printed in bold. I ripped it down and tried not to cry. I couldn't even find my voice to tell the teachers. When I passed Stacy in the hall, she winked and whispered, "Smile, Kira. You've got fans." I wanted to shove her, scream, kick something. But all I did was walk away, like I always did. I started eating lunch in the nurse's office. It was the only place people couldn't get to me. I told her I had stomach cramps. She nodded, probably used to lies like mine. I sat on the little cot biting my lip until it bled. I kept thinking, if this is what they do when I stay quiet, what would happen if I started speaking up? By the end of the week, I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror. My skin looked pale, hollowed out. My lips were dry and cracked from biting them too much. And my eyes, God, my eyes. They looked scared, like a cornered animal. Every noise made me jump. Every shadow made me twitch. I didn't know what to expect when my parents called a serious talk that Saturday night. I hoped for support. Maybe a hug. Maybe they finally believed me. But instead, they sat across from me at the dining table like I was a stranger on trial. Mom's voice was cold, clipped. You're not a child anymore, Kira. We need to know if there are other videos. Other? I blinked. What? No. There aren't any. There was never supposed to be one. Dad finally spoke. We're not saying it's your fault, but you did change in a public place. I felt something collapse inside me. They didn't believe me. Not really. Not fully. To them, it was shameful. Embarrassing. Something to sweep under the rug. I tried to explain again. The hidden phone. The deliberate setup. Stacy. Her friends. The laughing. The popcorn. The flyer. But they just looked at me like I was making excuses. That night I cried so hard I threw up. The next day I logged off everything. Deleted all my social media. Turned off notifications. But even in silence, the world still found ways to reach me. At church that Sunday, a woman leaned in and whispered, "We're praying for you, sweetie." But I saw the judgment in her eyes. At school on Monday, I found a Barbie doll taped to my locker door naked, with Kira written in Sharpie across its chest. Its arms were broken, its legs twisted. It looked like me. I took it down and walked to the principal's office. I was shaking, barely able to breathe. I sat in front of Mr. Harris, the same man who always bragged about how our school values dignity and safety. I told him everything, about the locker room, the video, the bullying, the flyers, the doll, my parents, my panic. He waited until I finished. Then, with the calmest expression I'd ever seen, he said, "Well, Kira, maybe you should have changed at home. Students are expected to maintain modesty." I stared at him, stunned. "Are you blaming me?" "I'm saying we all need to be responsible," he replied. "Besides, it's your word against theirs, unless you have proof." That was when something in me snapped. I'd begged, I'd cried, I'd done everything right. And still they acted like I was the villain in my own story. I left the office with my heart pounding in my ears. If they wanted proof, if they wanted a reason to listen, then I'd give them one they couldn't ignore. I stopped being afraid that day. Somewhere in the numbness, something sharp and solid started to take shape. It wasn't anger, it was colder than that. Precise. Focused. I stopped waiting for someone to save me, and decided to save myself. I knew Stacy and her group always met in the media room after lunch. One of them had a key from the yearbook committee. They used it to hang out gossip and plan whatever cruel prank came next. So I borrowed my older cousin's mini camera, no bigger than a coin, and taped it inside a decorative box of tissues on the shelf. It faced the table where they usually sat. The first day they just talked about boys and makeup. The second day about how funny it was that people were still sharing my video. One of them joked, "We should start a YouTube channel, Bullies Uncensored." They laughed. Stacy added, "If Kira cries again, I swear I'll pee my pants." She looked like a kicked puppy. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt when I watched the footage. The third day jackpot. One of them asked, "Did you ever delete the original recording?" Stacy, "Why would I? It's in the cloud." Labeled it Kira's Greatest Hits. Another voice, "Won't she sue you or something, Stacy? She's too scared. Plus, I'll just say it was a joke." I saved the recording, transcribed it, made copies, backed everything up on 2 flash drives and a password-protected Google Drive. My hands shook the entire time, but not from fear adrenaline. I wasn't going to post the video. I wasn't like them, but their words, their smirks, their bragging, that was mine to use. I went to Ms. Carter, the journalism teacher. She was one of the few adults who treated students like people, not problems. I told her everything, showed her the footage. She watched, jaw-clenched, eyes narrowing with every passing second. When it ended, she whispered, "Oh my God, We need to do something. She took it straight to the district board. In the days that followed, everything moved fast. Too fast. At first, I thought nothing would happen, just more adults saying, "We'll look into it." But then Stacy didn't show up to school. Then word spread that her phone had been confiscated. That her parents were furious. That she'd been suspended, possibly expelled. Her little gang fell apart overnight, each of them pointing fingers at the others. I stood by my locker that afternoon, trembling, not from fear, but from the feeling of justice, finally cracking through the surface. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't a victim either. For the first time in weeks, someone passed me in the hallway and didn't laugh. They looked ashamed, maybe even sorry, and I thought, good, let them sit with that. But it wasn't over. Justice, I learned, doesn't come clean. It comes with scars, ugly ones. The kind that burn when people try to apologize too late, or when teachers finally notice your existence because now it's a PR issue. By the time the story hit local news, everyone had an opinion. Reporters called me the brave teen who fought back. Parents suddenly wanted me to speak at assemblies. Girls I hadn't talked to in years sent me DMs saying I always knew Stacy was a snake. Where were they when I was eating lunch in the nurse's office? Where were they when my parents looked at me like I was trash? I wasn't interested in their sympathy now. The school tried to bury it. They suspended Stacy, and 2 others issued some fake-sounding apology letters and offered me emotional support in the form of weekly counseling with the vice principal's assistant. I didn't care. I had my own plan. I still had 1 copy of the footage left, and 1 name it hadn't reached yet, Principal Harris. I emailed it to him anonymously with the subject line, "Proof you asked for, uncut." An hour later, he pulled me from class. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten me. But his face was pale as chalk, and his hands trembled when he said, "Why didn't you bring this to me sooner?" I smiled, finally feeling in control. "I did. You didn't listen." He nodded once and said he'd be reporting it further. By the end of the week, he was reassigned. That same Friday, I uploaded a video to my new private channel. Just me. No flashy edits. No filters. Just a girl staring into a webcam voice, calm heart steady. I told the truth. Not the details of what they saw in the viral clip, but what they didn't see the setup. The pain. The loneliness. The silence. The betrayal. The cruel laughter. The teachers who ignored me. The parents who doubted me. The rage that boiled in my chest when I realized no one would fight for me, so I had to fight for myself. I ended the video with 1 line, "To anyone watching this who's ever felt exposed, humiliated, or broken, just know they don't win unless you give up." And I didn't. It reached 1.2 million views in 2 days. I didn't do it for fame. I didn't even show my face in the viral thumbnail. I did it for the girl still crying in the bathroom stall. The one biting her lip until it bled. The one with a Barbie taped to her locker, her name scratched across plastic skin. I did it for me, because I refused to let my story end with their laughter. People say redemption feels like light breaking through a storm. But for me, it was quieter than that. It wasn't a sunrise, it was a slow, steady flicker of warmth where Frost used to live. After my video went viral, the floodgates opened. Other girls from other schools began sharing their stories. Some were filmed, some were humiliated. Some were silenced for years. My inbox filled with strangers saying, "You gave me courage." One girl wrote, "I haven't told anyone what happened to me, until now." I cried reading every single one. At school, I walked the hallways differently. Not with arrogance, but with my shoulders back. When people looked at me, they didn't laugh anymore. They looked human. Like they finally saw me as a person instead of a scandal. Even Zoe reached out again. She came up to me during lunch, hesitant. "I'm sorry I disappeared," she said. "I didn't know what to do." I didn't either, I admitted. But I guess I figured it out anyway. We sat together after that, just like old times. We didn't talk about Stacy or the video or the worst days. We talked about music, classes, the next chapter. As for Stacy, her parents pulled her out of school. Rumors said she was homeschooled now that they were suing the district for emotional distress. I almost laughed when I heard that. Distress. That word didn't belong to her. I didn't care where she went. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted peace, and slowly it came. My mom apologized eventually. She came into my room one night with tear-streaked cheeks and whispered, "I should have believed you. I was just scared. For you. Of what people would say. I didn't know how to handle it." I didn't forgive her right away. but I let her hug me. And that was a start. The school district finally created a new policy on recording and harassment. Not because they suddenly cared, but because they were scared of public pressure. Still, I smiled reading it. Even if they were forced to change, at least someone else wouldn't go through what I did. That summer, I got invited to speak at a youth digital safety conference. I almost said no. The idea of standing in front of a crowd talking about what happened terrified me. But I remembered the girl who watched herself get torn apart on camera and didn't die, so I said yes. I stood on that stage, trembling at first. But then I spoke. And I didn't stop until every word had left my chest. I wasn't broken anymore. I was loud and seen and real. If you're reading this and think your voice doesn't matter, it does. For a long time, I believed silence was the safest choice, that staying invisible would protect me from further pain. But I've learned that speaking up, even with shaking hands, is the most powerful thing you can do. What happened to me was cruel, and it left scars. But those scars taught me how strong I really am. People will try to define you by your worst moment. Don't let them. You are not the video. You are not the whispers. You are not their laughter. You are yours, and you have the right to reclaim your story. So to every girl who's ever felt violated, mocked, or ignored, this is your reminder, you're not alone. And when the time comes, your voice will be the one that changes everything. Speak, stand, survive, and never ever shrink for their comfort.